Hi, I'm Laurie Wheeler. I'm really happy to be here and to talk to you a little bit about Lemuria. Oh gosh, you could talk for hours and hours about Lemuria. There's so much to be learned, so much to uncover. And it gives us a basis to understand ourselves, to understand our world, to understand our spirituality at a greater depth. And why we feel drawn to that timeline. There's so many that do, and how to open and awaken to source within us. Um, this is what the basis of remembering Lemuria is about. And so I want to talk a little bit about the keys that are hidden in the mystery surrounding Lemuria and a little bit about the actual history of it. But there were keys, there are coded keys actually. And the Lemurians, they really worked to protect their knowledge, their information, the technology. So that it could be passed along in the future, so that it could be told, because they were a very spiritual group of beings, of people, we'll say. And they did not want their information, their technology to get into the wrong hands or to be used the wrong way. Eventually, it became very disregarded, their spirituality. And of course, like any civilization, it begins to fall and crumble, and the cataclysm comes. But before it does, they made a very big effort to save their teachings, and their teachings were imprinted within our DNA as we are descendants. And they placed this in other places also, which is why we feel this connection when we're in certain areas, and also other planetary civilizations. So their information is in many places waiting for us to open it up, to awaken to it, and also for the right time. And the right time is now. So some of their important knowledge was about wave frequency and sacred geometry, also coded information. And so that's some of what I work in, actually. I'm presently working with Dr. Glenn Rain with coded information, and we're uh, finding out how that affects our DNA, what information is held there. And so I transmit energy from the interdimensionals, from coded information that has been given to me, in and I transmit it into DNA, and then we measure it. Glenn measures it, and we quantify this research and this information. These so I will talk more about that during the webinar. So these saved teachings, they were kept dormant for a long time, and they do connect us to Lemuria, to Atlantis, to the Aborigines, to the Druids, to Egypt, and other very sacred civilizations. These dots, they're I can remember when I received information, I started to think it's like, back when you're a child and you ever see these dots, but you have to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and suddenly it begins to take a form, a picture. And so this is what it reminds me of all the time. Connecting those dots becomes clarity. And we begin to see the greater picture, and what we've been told, probably not real. But again, everybody has a different truth for what they're willing to accept. And I'm going to talk more about that in the webinar. So again, I think a lot of why people are really feeling pulled to these sacred sites, the Pacific Islands, Hawaii, Fiji, Mount Shasta, you know, Peru, and the migration into Mexico. Glastonbury also carries some ancient wisdom that the Druids hold, and actually Egypt as well. Because in some ways, we can't almost talk about Lemuria without kind of talking about Atlantis, because there's such deep connection, even though they have their own time and their own essence in spirituality and such, they're so very connected. Um, and the answers that we need for our current time today are really held in these places. Um, and by actually experiencing their high vibration, it reawakens us to understand and experience more of our own divine God that is within us. This is really the scope of it, wanting to really know who we are within the depths of ourselves, that God exists, that we are God, and that actually one of the keys is about how to really create through this understanding. So one of the important keys that I'll be talking about is accessing and building a relationship with our higher self. So, what's been repeated over and over again through transmissions of the interdimensionals, they continue to tell me that this connection of the higher self, learning how to really open to that, so that there's no separation between the high self and our embodiment. And eventually, that we're going to lose our verbal communication. There won't be any verbal language eventually. And that this comes through the higher self, through the sensory, through telepathic. And also, it's kind of like the way the dolphins use their sonar as well. So they teach us to reach beyond and learn how to access these higher dimensions. And it's through how we actually see and perceive reality. It's adjusting, and this adjustment is moving us out of our third dimension and into the higher dimensions. And by accessing these higher dimensions through the beings and through the teachings and through the understandings of not only Lemuria, but other times, and Lemuria being a very important one, where we're getting to perceive our reality in a different way. And so this is what's graduating us through. Sharing, also, I'll be sharing about the soul and the body of the Lemurians, and specifically their healing process. So what has come through these codes that I work with, and this comes from a group, a select group that came together from different planetary systems, interdimensionals, that they put these codes together. And these codes that I access specifically will, one aspect of these codes talk about the healing process of the Lemurians. So, and that was really intriguing to me, as all of it really is, but it's quite an eye-opener. I will also be talking a bit about the teachings from one of the last great elders and kahunas of the Polynesian culture. And what is really interesting that he teaches, he has tablets. They're sort of like the long legal pads, I'll say, that we are familiar with, the yellow tablets. He has, or he's not here any longer, he's passed on now, but he passed along these tablets with the original writings of the Polynesians, and the Polynesians, how they speak about their culture and such, and about the Huna. And Huna is a teaching within the Lemurian understanding. So, I hope you can find this time to connect into this great event that's happening with the many wonderful presenters that will be at this event. And the event is July 27 and 28. It's Saturday and Sunday. It begins at noon at Pacific time. Make sure you know it's Pacific time. And to register, and I'm sure Neil will share that information with you, but it's portaltoascension.org/event/the Ultimate Lemurian Conference. I hope you'll make the time to tune into this vibe so that it can open up some of that hidden information. And until then, we'll see you then. Bye for now.